Hey there, my name's Niandra. So a new content creator experimental card dropped, and imagine everyone's surprise when it's revealed that Mercy has mass resurrect again. Now, please understand that content creator experimental cards are mostly just for fun, and there's almost no chance of any of these changes going through, since I know some people do get confused. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give my thoughts on the Mercy change and then commentate over a match I played on the experimental. Now, what do I think? Well, for a while now, I've kind of felt like Mercy gets the short end of the stick in a lot of these fun experimental cards. Ages back we got Guardian Angel set upon elimination, which is just nothing. Then in the last content creator card, it felt like every character got something wacky, while Mercy got a meter that made her more tedious to play. I just kind of feel like every other character has been allowed their chance in the spotlight apart from Mercy, and I just wanted to get the same opportunity. So in this regard, I was really pleased to see Mercy get significant changes instead of being treated like an afterthought as usual. Which is why it pains me so fucking much to say that I wasn't the biggest fan of these changes. Okay, no, I think ML7 put forward some really interesting ideas, but the execution isn't great and a lot of the numbers could use some tweaking. Basically, everything just feels way clunkier than it should. For example, with Mass Resurrect, it's pretty slow to build and the range feels really restrictive. Because you're still slowed down, you can't really spend time during a fight trying to figure out how to position between corpses to get both. Secondly, it doesn't pause your ally's respawn timer, so I actually lost ult because my ally fucking respawned. Secondly, I was pretty mixed on how Valkyrie felt. The lack of movement bonus is super noticeable and it's a 20-second cooldown for 3 seconds. That being said, it's not all bad. Resetting GA on cooldown and doubling beam length opens up a lot of survivability options. I will say the extra healing in Valkyrie is actually really good, but I also felt kinda guilty using it because it felt like I was stealing ult charge from my second support. On that note, Mercy's beam doesn't break when activating Valkyrie, and it's a really good change. It felt fantastic. I really hope that one does go through to the live game. Anyway, I want to look at 2 matches. The first is a Numbani full hold with stats I'm pretty proud of. This match is after I'd spent quite a bit of time on the experimental. The second match will be one of my first on Oasis and is a lot rougher, but I still thought it was kind of interesting. So let's get started. Generally, I should be positioning here behind this wall and then checking here for flanks. However, I play behind my team instead, even though it's a bit riskier. I do this because we have double shield and our soldier drops down onto point, and it's easier for me to beam in from here than from here. Overwatch does this thing where there's no visual indication if an ally on the other side of a wall is anti-naded. This kept tripping me up because I would get ready to Valk heal a tank, then realise they're purple. One thing you may notice is that I do still push damage boost on injured allies, but maybe not as much as I could. There's 2 reasons. Sim's healing output is very low and Mercy gains more ult charge from healing. I found mass res really slow to build, which then made me more inclined to heal bot. If tanks were injured, instead of seeing if my other support could handle it, I would just do it myself. In the experimental, May's wall launches people into the air. In a few seconds it will knock our Symmetra and DPS off, then I'll drop down as well to help them. However, this will leave me far away from the tanks who no longer have a healer with them. Our Sigma dies pretty fast, and I don't really react to Orisa being pushed. I think I assumed I'd already fucked my positioning and wouldn't be able to do anything, but Valk is almost ready again, so I should have gotten in position to save her. I think I just kind of forgot I was the main healer here. I then spend a good few seconds during this fight positioning on point and playing with my back to the main street, which I don't really like, it's kind of risky, but I felt I had a good enough grasp on enemy positions to get away with it. Enemy Anna killed our Cassidy, meaning she's lingering about somewhere, so I'll pocket soldier but want to be careful and keep a distance. Orisa, Sigma, Soldier and myself head back to high ground. The 2 tanks shoot down the corridor while I can hear soldiers shooting someone trying to flank. It sounds like there's more people pushing from high ground, which makes me more inclined to damage boost the tanks, but I decided to switch between them and soldier. It's a good thing I did because the enemy was trying to combo Maywall and High Noon, which I saw a few times and it was honestly really scary. Okay, so for this next fight, I'm gonna spend most of it prop bouncing against a wall, and it's so self-indulgent. Obviously, positioning by my team is way safer, and I would be an easy target for anyone that pushed main, but this is so much fun. Like, I cannot express how much I love the Mercy settings change. Enemy Sigma uses ult, and I can't really react to it because I'm just kind of in my own little world over here. My allies start dying and I honestly get a little bit excited. For the most part, I've mainly been using my ult for single person reses. They feel the most useful and also mean I don't have to fight with the ridiculously strict line of sight needed to bring back multiple people. That being said, it then feels like I don't really have an ultimate. It's like I have this third ability on a 2-minute cooldown, which just doesn't feel good. Once again, not being able to see anti-nade through walls gets in my way. I've been moving my camera view between my team and checking for flanks on my right, then see that Orisa has taken a decent amount of damage. Maybe this is on me for being presumptuous rather than the game being at fault, but it would be useful if we could tell allies were anti-naded like this. Both of my tanks get pretty badly injured, and although there's a brief moment where I consider otherwise, I want to prioritise Sigma because he's pushed up more. Orisa is hurt more, but she's pretty far back, so I decide to focus on Sigma until Valkyrie is ready, then heal her up with that. Also, I dodge enemy Sigma's rock by cancelling GA, which I'm pretty proud of. We are coming up to the final fight. I have Mass Resurrect ready and a great high ground position with Cassidy. The mindset I have is I'm not intentionally going to let people die, but I probably won't leave this high ground to save someone. I also have no problem prioritising damage boost as much as I can here because I should have a safety net. Soldier dies on point and Sigma is dying on point, but I'm gonna stick with Cassidy. For fuck's sake. So in general, I found Mass Res's line of sight restrictions to be really weird. For like a frame there, it said I could revive 2 but immediately went back to 1 and I have no idea why. It's genuinely a shame that I have to fight with my ultimate every time I want to revive more than one person. Anyway, moving on to the second game, I want to show a round of Oasis. As I said earlier, my performance is pretty jank this match, which is why I wanted to show it. I mention this on every King of the Hill VOD, but I love to begin by damage boosting the ally that pushes up the furthest. I love taking advantage of Mercy's beam linger with allies like Doomfist and Tracer. They'll use their mobility to push ahead out of view, get a second of damage boost, and then when my beam breaks, I can just attend to someone else. I will say as a general thing, neither team being able to revive an ally during the first few fights of a match shifts the dynamics around a lot. I think it made me play a lot safer, even though me looping the Sombra like a Dead by Daylight killer doesn't necessarily show that. In my first few matches, I kept forgetting to reposition a high ground during Valkyrie because I couldn't grasp how short the ability lasted. Like, I would be surprised every time it ended quickly. Kind of my fault, but Zarya is dying in a bad position. I do want to fly to her, but make sure I prepare a super jump so if she does die, I have a safety net that will allow me to stall until I can fall back. Also, still eating every fire strike in 2022. With a pick on Zarya, they push in, win the fight, and I mess up a super jump which leaves me in a bad position, so I die pretty fast. I will skip ahead again, but I just want to show off this quick prop bounce. Yeah, we dodged him! Oh, there's my first opportunity to go for a res that's more than one person, and I can't. Anyway, we briefly get spawn camped, but quickly turn it around. As Mercy, sometimes you take what you can get when it comes to cover, and that is a tree. Actually, it might have been safer to just use this wall more and peek from it. Prop bouncing against an ulting Bastion, kinda brave. 2.5 minutes into the match, I use my first ult on one person. I feel a bit hesitant reviving someone so close to spawn, but it is my second healer and I don't want to risk it. As I said earlier, single target reses felt the most powerful. If I did try to ignore them, fights went much worse and I would also end up holding my ult for minutes trying to find opportunities. I really love damage boosting injured Zaryas. Usually I'll make sure she has some shield so it can regen over time, but here she has armor. I should probably play a bit safer with her, but I play the way I normally would and it works out fine. My allies get grabbed, but they're behind a shield, so I Valk and spam my beams between people. I did this in a few games and it worked out well every time, but I assume it's down to other factors like enemy positioning rather than the play itself being good. There's 2 instances here where I fly forward, and I should have prepared a super jump with both. Even if I didn't need it, it's nice to have the option when I'm pushing forward like this. I get a really nice prop bounce off our Doomfist, then slowly fall behind the wall, not realising I've lost line of sight on Brig. This means when I want to do a second prop bounce I can't because my beam broke. Two things. Like in the live game, you can hold down your Valkyrie key while it's on cooldown to automatically activate once it's available. Secondly, my positioning in this last fight is super questionable. Sometimes I get in my own head, panic, make chain mistakes, but that's okay, I'm happy to go through it. I've mentioned before that if you're on high ground and there's a corpse below, sometimes you can crouch into the res, so I try to do that, get stuck on the rim and panic, because I know my team below needs me ASAP. My brain then decides it's easy to res while falling, instead of faffing around with mass res's dodgy line of sight checks, especially when my ally will respawn during res if I take too long. One thing I kept forgetting is that mass res has a tiny range, but it's still borderline double that of ability res. I easily could have revived my ally from this high ground if I had just stayed calm and thought about it for a moment. However, at the time I was like, I don't have a moment, I need to take action now. I then fly to someone while still in the air, meaning I cannot do a crouch or super jump. I get hit by Ryan's hammer, which sends me flying and does less damage, so it was actually pretty beneficial here. I prepare a crouch to get back on high ground, then decide to bunny hop towards a sim turret I saw in the corner of my eye. Not sure about that play, I feel I should have prioritised safer positioning. I Valk without specific purpose, and by the time I do a single GA, it's almost half over. Because Valkyrie only lasts 3 seconds, you really need to know why you're using it. I also kept forgetting that Valkyrie doesn't do anything for damage boost, so uses like this one are wasted if I'm not repositioning on high ground. Real amateur mistake here. I heal Brig then fly to her instead of turning around to fly to the mate on high ground behind me. This play wasn't punished here, but I think it would in almost any ranked match. Bit of a shame to end the round with such sloppy plays, but we won the fight and that's what matters.